The NTSB is an independent federal agency. We're charged by Congress to investigate transportation accidents, to determine the probable cause, and then to issue safety recommendations to hopefully prevent those accidents from ever occurring again. So we are here to conduct the accident investigation. Before I go on, we certainly realize that a lot of people have been affected by this event, and people have been injured, and our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those people and their families. NTSB investigators began arriving in Oxnard at noon today. We've been coming in throughout the day. A team of 7 of us came in on a government plane, got into Oxnard at 6 this evening, flying in from Washington. Other investigators are coming in from other places, including Washington, coming in commercial, and they'll be coming in through the evening. The investigator in charge is Robert Sumwalt, and Robert has been investigating transportation accidents for over 20 years. He will be leading a multidisciplinary team consisting of experts in the areas of rail, highway, and research and engineering. And some of the things that multidisciplinary team will be looking at would include survival factors, recorders, highway factors, emergency response, operation of the truck, operation of the train. So we've got a great deal of expertise that will be here conducting the investigation. Additionally, we have a specialist from the NTSB's Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance who will be here working with the American Red Cross, with Metrolink, with other local agencies to assist those people who've been affected by this event. So here's what we know right now, just bearing in mind that we're just getting spooled up on the investigation. We've got Metrolink train 102 that departed East Ventura at 5:25 this morning. It made a station stop at Oxnard and departed Oxnard at 5:39 this morning. Of course, conditions at this time of the day are dark, just like it is now. At some point, a 1-ton truck pulling a utility trailer turned down the railroad tracks headed towards Oxnard. The collision between the train and the truck occurred at approximately 5:42 a.m. The train was pushed approximately 300 feet. I'm sorry, the truck was pushed approximately 300 feet. It was on the west side of this street right here. It was on the west side of this street. It was pushed across the grade crossing, across this street, and another couple of hundred feet down to the east. We've got 4 cars that were being pushed, 4 rail cars that were being pushed, being operated in the push mode, of course, with a locomotive in the rear of the train. 3 rail cars derailed onto their sides. Today we've worked with local law enforcement officials to document the scene using sophisticated total station surveying equipment. We have in our possession recorders from the train. The train basically has 2 types of recorders. It has video recordings, and this would be outward-facing video recordings, so forward-facing video, as well as inward-facing video in the control cab. So we've obtained that video That video will leave Oxnard at 8 in the morning on the same government plane that we flew in on and be flown to Washington to the NTSB's laboratory at Washington, D.C., where it will be downloaded. The other recording device is an event data recorder. And the event data recorder records several parameters, such as the speed of the train, the braking of the train, horn movement, throttle position. So that we also have, and we will be downloading that, if not tonight, early tomorrow morning. In addition to those recorders, we hope that we will be able to gather any data from the truck itself. I've looked at the truck. It's in pretty bad condition, but yet the engine is intact. So we may be able to obtain information from these memory chips that are in the engine or the transmission. So we hope to be able to obtain information from that. Also, the signals, the traffic, the signals, the flashing lights, and the gates at a railroad crossing, they have event recorders as well. And those data recorders, event recorders, have been secured, and we will be downloading. We've downloaded the data, we've secured the data, we've not yet analyzed that data, but we do have that data. We've conducted a documentation of the control cab, the leading car of the Metrolink train, and we found that the headlight switch was in the bright position, and the brake handle, the brake was in the emergency brake position. Tomorrow will be our first full day on scene, and we're optimistic that we will have a busy day and a productive day. We will be conducting an organizational meeting to establish our investigative teams and also to establish parties to the NTSB's investigation. We will be documenting the geometry of this grade crossing. Sometime later this week, we plan to conduct a site distance test. So with that, we would position an exemplar train on the track and be able to see, if you're in a train, how far down the track could you see a vehicle that was potentially stopped on the tracks, and vice versa. If you were on the tracks looking down towards Oxnard, how far would you be able to see an approaching train? So we will be doing that. We plan to be doing that later this week. We certainly want to interview the train crew. We want to interview the driver of the truck. We realize that oftentimes there are witnesses to events like this, and we would encourage anyone who may have witnessed the event to contact us. We've set up an email address. That email address is witness@ntsb.gov. Again, witness@ntsb.gov. Throughout the next several days, our investigators will be working to document the wreckage. We want to gather factual information. We expect our investigators to be on scene about 5 to 7 days. And I like to say that while we're on scene, our objective is to collect perishable evidence. And I describe that as the evidence that will go away with the passage of time. We're not here to speculate. We never speculate at the NTSB. We're not here on scene to determine the cause of the accident. We're not here on scene to analyze. So I know that everybody wants to know what happened, and we will determine that, but our goal here is to collect that information that will go away with the passage of time. As you can tell, the train has already been moved. We wanted to document that before it moved, because after it's moved, we can't come back and document the exact position of it. So that's our priorities right now, to collect the information that can go away with the passage of time. Our ultimate goal is not only to find out what happened, but we want to find out why it happened. And that's really what we're in the business of doing, is finding out what happened so that we can keep things like this from happening again. Again, this is just really the very beginning of our investigation. We don't have a lot of factual information to report to you. I was on another grade crossing accident 3 weeks ago, and I do know that usually by our first full day, we're able to provide you with things, hopefully like the speed of the train and things like that. But we don't have that information now. But we will be providing information to you as we learn that information. And I'm aware of your news cycles, so we've got to balance what your deadlines are versus being able to have enough information to provide to you. So we will be providing press conferences periodically, usually in the afternoon. That's our goal, sometime during the afternoon. And we would encourage you to follow us at Twitter. Our handle is @NTSB, and our website that you can follow us at is www.ntsb.gov. As a final comment, I'd like to thank the first responders for their efforts. They've been working very busily throughout the entire day. We appreciate their hard works. I'll be glad to, before I call for questions, when I do call for them, I'd like for you to kindly raise your hand. I'll call on you, state your name and your outlet, and we'll do it that way. So that's all my prepared remarks. I'd be glad to take your questions. So we'll start right here.
Mr. Sumwalt, thank you. Steve Gregory, KFI Los Angeles. You've been on scene now for a few hours. You said you had an investigator here early from the regional office. And can you tell already, is it too preliminary, whether or not this crossing guard here, what role it played in perhaps the mistake the driver made?
The question is, thank you, Steve, is is it too early to tell perhaps why this driver ended up going down the tracks? Maybe the crossing arm may have had something to do with it, is really what your question is. And I think that's the gist of your question. And certainly interviewing the driver of the vehicle is a high priority for us to try and understand what those factors were. So we don't have that information now, but we certainly place a high priority on being able to interview him, but we don't have that information right now. There's a question right through here.
Thank you. Wes Dennison from KABC. You indicated the vehicle had turned west onto the tracks. Did it actually travel down the tracks a little bit, or was it across the track when it was struck?
The question is, did the truck actually travel down the railroad tracks? And our information is the collision occurred about 80 feet down the railroad track towards Oxnard. So it had to have traveled there somehow. So that's...
it wasn't as if it was stranded across the track down this road.
So the follow-up is, it was not as if it was stranded on the tracks, and that would be a fair statement. It was not stuck, bottomed out on the track or something like that. It had actually traveled down the railroad track itself. So let's see, there's a question right here.
Claudia with KNX Radio. Claudia with Okay, so I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're saying the truck was 80 feet from the intersection when it was struck by the train? Correct. Okay. All right, so my question is, what do you guys plan to do overnight? Like, what do you need to get done before they can start getting trains moving through here? What evidence do you collect this evening?
So the question is, what do we need to do? What do we need to do during the night to be able to get the trains running and tomorrow? And we have already turned the railroad track back over to UP. Union Pacific owns this part of the track. We've already turned it back over to them. We've collected the information that we need at this point by documenting the position of the rail cars, the position of the truck. We've done those things. So these guys with the railroad are out there busily getting the track prepared to be opened again. And they are telling us they hope to have their work finished by midnight. That's what they're telling us. So let's see if we have another question here.
Can I do?
There's a follow-up from Claudia.
Do you expect to interview the driver of the truck tonight?
Do we expect to interview the driver of the truck tonight? No, we do not plan to interview him tonight, but it is a very high priority for us. So, yeah, we want to get that done as quickly as we're able to. And there's a question right here. Thank you.
Following up on Claudia's question regarding your interviewing of the driver of that truck. His lawyer says this has happened before with other trucks on these tracks. Are you aware of that? Does that impair your investigation?
Are you asking if there's been another accident at this grade crossing? Is that what you're...
Trucks being stuck on these very tracks.
Grade crossing accidents are very much of a concern for the NTSB. There are about 2,100 grade crossing accidents in this country every year. It's something that we're very concerned about. Again, I was on a grade crossing accident 3 weeks ago. Since that particular accident, statistically speaking, there have been about 130 grade crossing accidents, if you just do the math on it. So we're very concerned about this. And so that's why we have launched to this. We don't go to every grade crossing accident, but we did think this one was a little unusual since a truck had apparently traveled down a railroad track. And it's not your typical grade crossing accident where somebody may have gone through under the gates or something, or some truck may have been stranded on the track. So we're very concerned about that. We're very interested in it. So I don't know if I answered your question, but thank you. Okay, so we'll take one more, and it would be right here.
Mr. Sumwalt, I wanted to follow up real quick. When you say you turn the track back over to Union Pacific, so you're done collecting all physical evidence, then, correct? And then that being the case, are you taking that to a different site to review, or are you done on this site?
Are we through with this particular site? And what we will do is we've got an expert coming out with our own laser scanning capability that will scan the grade crossing, but the wreckage does not need to be there when we conduct that. They will come out and conduct 3D laser scanning of this particular grade crossing. Now, the cars themselves, the rail cars themselves, are being taken to a Metrolink yard, and that's where we will conduct our detailed examination of the interior of the cars and the exterior of the cars.
Just the final follow-up.
Follow-up.
In all your years you have seen crash sites like this, how would you grade it as far as severity?
How far would I grade this in terms of severity? Well, I think that our investigation will determine a number of things. I think that we are very fortunate here in this case that there were no fatalities, but we want to understand the crashworthiness of these cars. Some of these cars are the newer models that Metrolink has put into place, the crash energy management, the CEM cars made by I've already forgotten the name, but we want to look at those cars.
I'm trying to get a sense from you, based on your experience, when you saw this today or saw any footage of it, in your mind, what was the severity of this compared to others?
Well, I don't want to put a severity on it, but I do want to say that we're very concerned about grade crossing accidents in general. That's why we launched a team out here. We don't go to every grade crossing accident, but we are very interested in this for a number of factors. So I want to thank you again. Our commitment to you is, as we have information, we will be holding press conferences, media conferences. Terry Williams, will you give them some information on how they can get in touch with you? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.